I'm going to start the session. Yes, so our next speaker is Maxine Nwaneri, who was here for a one-year MBA at the Judge Business School in 2007 and living very happily in Beaufort House, and has such happy memories that she brings her family back here, which is wonderful to know. But Maxine's gone on to become a #1 Amazon international best-selling author, highly acclaimed international speaker, executive coach and business consultant. Maxine's journey has taken her from significant early life challenges to a global career in finance, leadership and personal development. So today she supports individuals and organizations across 5 continents, helping people unlock their potential and lead with purpose and thrive in both life and work. What could be better than that? We're so thrilled to welcome you back, Maxine. And I know your insights on generosity and leadership and personal transformation will be inspiring to us all. So I give the stage to you, Maxine.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rachel, for that wonderful introduction. Can you all hear me okay? Yes. Amazing, amazing. So good to be back at the college and to talk about this theme, Give to Gain, International Women's Day. Now, who here would love to gain outstanding success with your goals, whatever they may be? Amazing. So I'm in the right room. Because that's my goal really for today, to really talk about 4 keys to unlock the power of generosity. Now, my journey with this whole idea of give to gain began in a rather bizarre way. Quite a terrifying situation, actually. Nearly 3 decades ago, I found myself, after a blazing row with my parents, I ended up running away from home and making one stupid decision after another, dating the wrong person, drinking, drugs, dropping out of school, just as bad as it could go. My life spiraled completely out of control, so I was down to literally £3 coins with no one to call and no clue really what to do. And I remember my best friend at the time suggested, terrible idea, that we go and do this job that you could make loads of money and not have to do too much. I think pretty much everybody in here could probably have some ideas of what sort of work this would be. And I remember walking into this room and the realization of what I was getting myself into sort of slapping me in the face, like as the stench of the room hit me. And I thought, oh my goodness, what in the world am I doing here? How in the world did I go from growing up in Nigeria, in a good Christian home, good parents, wanting to be a doctor? There's only a few approved professions as a child growing up in Nigeria: doctor, lawyer, accountant, and engineer. I think those are the 4. But I wanted to be a doctor. I went to Sunday school, all the things. How do you go from that to ending up here? And I must have kind of just zoned out, because I just remember myself being snapped out of this by this interviewer, let's just call him that, looking at me furiously and saying, "You do know how much you're supposed to charge?" At this point, I just completely lost it and began to shake visibly at this point, thinking, oh my gosh, how could this be my only choice? I don't think I'd ever felt so ashamed, so alone, so just alone. And I remember just standing there shaking, thinking, oh my gosh, how could this be my only choice? How in the world do I get out of it? As I asked myself that last question, I heard a voice within me, as clearly as I've been hearing the voices from this stage say, "This is not who you're meant to be. You are meant for so much more." I have no idea who or what that voice was, but I was so desperate at this point for this voice to be the truth. I chose to believe it, and it gave me the strength I needed to literally peel my feet off the floor and go running out of the room into the freezing cold. I'm someone who loves to be warm, but I tell you what, cold air had never felt so good. I had no money, I had no plans, I had no idea what to do, but just this knowing within me from that voice that I was meant for more. So I dared to keep tapping into that voice, my intuition, I came to find out. Kind of led me back into the school system, where I went on to graduate with a first-class honours as an award-winning student from the University of Wales in Bangor. I studied banking and finance there. Ended up, working in the UK financial services sector, writing code, building risk scorecards for banks to help them decide who to lend money to and how to lend, at what rate, that sort of thing. It was really amazing. And at that point, after doing that for a couple of years, I remember thinking, I probably need something else. I don't really see myself doing this for long. I want something different. And that's what actually led me here to Cambridge. So for me, it was such a big dream growing up in Nigeria. As a young kid in the 80s, 90s, the only 2 universities I knew were Oxford and Cambridge. And I just had this picture as a child of I really wanted to go there. And it seemed like this lost dream when I kind of spiraled out of control in my life. But I got to realize that dream coming here from my MBA and studying at here, you know, as Dr. Rachel said, I was at the Dome, at Beaufort House, the Dome. I was at CJBS, Cambridge Judge Business School, which has just been so amazing. I've got this picture here at the bottom right. These are my fellow MBAs that were also at New Hall. So Janine George, Ileana, Merope, and we had some MBAs in our class that used to be at Jesus College, and they'd say, oh, we're sons of Jesus. And we thought, not to be outdone, we are daughters of the Dome. And it didn't, thank you. We thought it was great. They were not impressed. It didn't catch on. But we were the daughters of the Dome. I was the class vice president, and Janine actually, it was a very powerful New Hall contingent. Janine was actually the president of this business school, and we traveled to various different countries representing the business school of this prestigious, amazing university. Such a dream come true, life-changing, transforming year that went on to really radically transform my life. I ended up going to work at IBM. They have one of the lines of business, financial services arm that enables billions and billions worth of technology to be financed. Ended up being recognized as one of the top 30 under the age of 40 in our industry, and just really having an amazing time traveling around the world, doing wonderful roles within IBM. About 10, 12 years ago, when I had my first child, I felt this call to go into business, you know, doing what I do now, which is really enabling individuals and organizations to thrive. I love doing that. I do that as a speaker, as an author, running programs, all kinds of things. I do a lot of, just a variety of things. I'm here, just literally, I pinch myself when I think I get to do this when it could have been so, so different. I was recently honored by Baroness Sandy Verma, who I'm there in the middle with, from the UK House of Lords as one of her women of influence, for the work I'm doing with my book that I recently released, The Future is Greater, all around how do women, I'm very, very passionate about women and leadership, navigating the various barriers that we face externally, we've been talking about some of them already, and internally, to reaching their potential. And a lot of women, when they become mothers, how do you do that? Motherhood and career, how do you balance that? And it's something that, having invested my time, my money, my energy here, I wasn't about to let motherhood say, well, okay, no career for you. So I studied really hard through my clients to understand how do we navigate successfully. And that's what the book was about. And I ended up being awarded this honor by Baroness Verma, which has opened so many doors to do amazing things with leaders around the world in my work. And actually the book, I'm so honored to say, was actually also listed by Harper's Bazaar as one of the essential guides for navigating the future of work, which was completely mind-blowing to me. But I share all of that really, and actually I just wanted to show this slide as I put it together. I had tears in my eyes because I remember thinking, I'll never get to go to Cambridge because of the mess I've made in my life. And not only did I fulfill that dream, I'm so blessed to be a part of contributing to other people who come here in the business school. I collaborate with them on several of their programs, including, you know, the Global Executive MBA, the Executive MBA, and because of my passion for women in leadership, there's a Cambridge Rising Women Leaders program, and this recently launched program with the Financial Times for senior women in leadership, which is what these pictures are from. So it's just so surreal to me that not only did I come here, I get to do this, and it's part of my life. And I share all of this not to say how amazing I am, because I don't think there's anything more special about me or anybody here. But I say this to share that regardless of who you are or where you're starting from, I know there's people in here that have done and will do far more impressive things. Regardless of who you are able to, if you, coming back to what we're talking about here, give to gain, if you use strategic generosity, you're able to create a life in which you look back. So for me, this is 20, 30 years now. You're able to look back within 20, 30 years and your life be unrecognizable. And I really believe that some of the very simple concepts I'm going to share with you today have the power to do that. So we're here, International Women's Day 2026. So let's say 2046, 2056. You'll be able to look back and come back to you here and be like, you cannot believe what we did. And I really believe that some simple concept can do that for you. Is anybody interested in some of that? Because that's what I'd love to share with you, if so. Do I have the right group still? Excellent. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So anybody who knows me knows I love frameworks. I love to kind of gather my thoughts in acronyms and think. I literally dream in frameworks. I love it. So when I was thinking, how do I share some of my journey, what I've learned, into something that you can hopefully remember really easily, I came up with this framework I've called the GIVE Framework for Unlocking the Power of Generosity. And you can tell there's going to be GIVE things we're going to go into one by one. So let's start with G, group influence. So if you want to give to gain, you want to create this life where your goals, your success that you gain are just so amazing to you, you've got to be careful, you've got to give. We're talking about give, right? We're going to give our attention to group influence. What is the group influencing you? So for me, I talked about growing up in a wonderful home with good parents surrounded. However, all of that began to spiral out of control when I allowed myself to be influenced by a group of people, and I take full responsibility, I don't blame anybody, but I allowed myself to be influenced by people that were not the right influence for me. So when I decided to surround myself with people who were drug users and dropouts, unfortunately, temporarily, that's what I became. So hopefully, thankfully, there's nobody that would be having that kind of influence here. But if you look at what it is that you hope to do, we talked about those wildest dreams that we're hoping to gain, what you're hoping to achieve, look at the people closest to you that have the ability to influence you, their mindsets, their habits, their lifestyles. The results, are they what you want? And this is something that you don't really have to do. If you do nothing, you already have the group influencing you. For me, I got myself in that situation through terrible group influence, and I got myself out of it through amazing group influence. So for whatever it is you're hoping to gain, the people around you, how conducive are their mindsets and everything to that? And if you need to make some changes, do that. I think for me, when I began to kind of build my life back up, I think of one person, even when I was already successful, I already had a great first degree, I was working in financial services, I was doing really well by the world standards. Inside, I still felt like, gosh, what a letdown, I still felt not right inside. I remember this lady called Uju Arinze. I'd been working in banks as a consultant for about 2 years at this point, building scorecards, writing code. And I thought, well, I'm good at this, I like it, but I don't really see myself doing this forever. I mean, I look at these other people who've been doing it for 10, 15 years, and we were all quite geeky, we loved it, but they really loved it. And I was like, I'm quite bored with this, I don't really know what to do. So Uju Arinze is this amazing lady. At the time, she was a recent Harvard grad, and she is from the same village as my mother in Nigeria. So I don't know how we got connected, but she decided to pay it forward and have this kind of mentoring conversation with me. I remember sharing with her, well, this is what I've done, these are the things I'm thinking about, I don't really know what I want to do. And she said, oh, well, it's obvious, you need to just go to a school like Harvard and get an MBA. And I just thought, oh my goodness, we need to get done with this phone call so I can just literally cry and tell her that, and just people like me don't go to places like Harvard is what I was thinking. And I was just in my head, I don't think I heard anything else she said, just with this self-defeated monologue about, oh, they'd never take me, like, oh, who does she think I am? And somehow I just heard her, through this defeating monologue going on in my head, I heard her say, if you want to go, I'll help you. And I remember thinking, oh, well, if she thinks I can do it, fine, I'll do it. Because I knew that if I had her, holding me accountable, I would not, waste that opportunity. So I said yes, she agreed to mentor me, and over the space of like 9, 12 months, she mentored me through the process, the grueling process of, applying for and getting admitted onto a top MBA program. She told me, how to study, how to write applications, how to interview. Ended up going for the GMAT exam that we need to do and getting organized to study for that. Ended up scoring like in the top 2% of the people that take this globally. She just helped me so much. Without her, I don't even know how. But all of that led to me coming here to Cambridge, getting in, and then having this totally life-transforming year. So I say all of that to say, with some of these amazing things that are going to leap you forward significantly, what is the group influencing you? And who do you need to kind of, move a little away from, or who do you need to introduce? And I'm a big believer in women supporting women, forever till I die. But also, who doesn't necessarily look like you? Could you bring into your circle of influence that can make a real difference? I've had clients, who have, think of one lady in particular, a woman of color, she's from South America. She wanted to do something that had never been done in her 100-year history. The company that she worked in, the 100-year history, had never been done. I'm like, well, has it never been done, or just never been done by somebody who looks like you? And it turned out to be the latter. There's plenty of people who've done it. They just didn't look anything like her. So I'm like, well, they are human. Go ask them to help you. And she did, with tremendous success as a result. She's one of their executive vice presidents. For the first time, a woman of color has ever done that. So look for who you can bring into your group to influence you. Make sense? Awesome. So another thing that you need to give your attention to, or give your attention to really gain this outstanding success is intuitive guidance. Now, just by show of hands, there's no right or wrong answer here. Who here regularly or has ever tapped into intuition and followed it? Okay, good. there's some hands, amazing. Sometimes there's nobody, great. So like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. For me, in that story when I said, I heard, this is not who you're meant to be, you're so much more. That was the first, most powerful time I'd heard my intuition. If you don't already do this, I highly recommend you do. It is your superpower, literally your superpower. The world is moving so fast. I love Paola's question about AI. I love, everything is so rapid. Sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around all the data that's available. Even if your mind can't follow the logic, your intuition always knows what to do. And I encourage you to tap into that voice within. And by the way, actually, I should probably give this caveat. When I talk about the voice within, I'm not talking about the voice within that tells you, oh, you're not smart enough, or you're not pretty enough, or you're not thin enough, or you're not whatever enough you want to, hear right now. Not that voice. The intuitive guidance I'm speaking about is the voice within that tells you you can do this, the voice that will tell you this is not who you're meant to be, you're meant for more when you're playing it small. The voice that your intuition will never lead you to hurt yourself or other people. Tap into that voice and quite importantly, have the courage to follow it. Because that is how you get to create things, you get to blaze new trails, you get to, I have a love-hate relationship with this phrase I've often heard said a lot. Like, oh, you can't be what you can't see. Has everyone heard that? And to a degree, yes, we need role models, but there was nobody I could see that told me that woman I was in, that mess I was in, there was nobody I could see that could tell me I'd get out of that. So sometimes seeing it in your intuition's enough. So I encourage you to tap into that voice within that is fearless, that will actually help you pave a path, blaze a trail for others to follow. It is your superpower. And we can talk a little bit more. There'll be time for questions. If you don't know how to do it, how you might go about start doing that. The next thing to give your attention to, and I think I'm going to spend quite a bit of time here, is the victim mindset. This is something that I see holding far too many capable leaders, especially women, back. Let me just pull up this quote. It just makes for such a sobering read. So I pulled this from the UN UK website because their International Women's Day theme this year is justice, action for all women and girls, because it's necessary. And I'll just read, literally. International Women's Day 2026 comes at a time when justice systems are under strain. We've got war, repression, political tensions are weakening the rule of law and limiting access to justice for millions of women and girls. Globally, women currently enjoy only 64% of the legal rights compared to men. At the current pace, it could take 286 years, my goodness, to close the legal protection gap. This is not just a statistic. It reflects structural barriers, discriminatory laws, harmful social norms, and persistent gaps between legal commitments and lived realities. It's the world we live in, so what does that actually mean for you and me? Sadly, plenty of opportunities to feel like a victim and to actually be a victim. It's just so unfair. Like some of the things that we have to live through, we hear other people live through. But what I want to say, even with all of this reality, is sometimes we don't have a choice as women if we end up a victim. We just don't have a choice, sadly. However, whether or not we choose to stay one, we do have a choice. And that sounds so harsh, I know, to some people, but I'm so convinced of it because I've seen far too many times that actually some people's greatest purpose, some people's greatest payback even, has been birthed from the place of their greatest pain when they've been made to feel like or actually been a victim. So I want to say that, we've got to judge how are we viewing life. Life is unfair. At least you wrote a whole chapter about this in my book, When Life is Not Fair. And there's something I felt there's a powerful strategy I put in there to help you deal with it. If you are finding yourself feeling like a victim or actually are a victim, how do you stop this limiting you? And how do you actually get to this point of purpose and then pay back? Because we're still talking about giving to gain. So rather than giving yourself the indulgence of wallowing in this misery of victimhood, there's something else you can give. Give 3 Fs, triple F formula. So I wrote about this in my book, in the chapter under Life Just Isn't Fair, because it isn't. What can you do to actually turn this around so it pays you, so your troubles pay you? And the triple F formula is basically 3 F words, and not the F word a lot of people think about when life isn't fair. 3 F words: faith, forgive, focus. Let's take them one by one. So this idea of faith is, I love this quote actually I've got here by Henry Ford. So whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Your beliefs are powerful. They're going to shape your life. They are going to dictate what you do. They're going to dictate the result you get. So with this area of faith, let's say you find yourself in a situation where you've ended up a victim or you feel like a victim. So whether you feel like this unfair situation will limit you or it won't limit you, you're right. So you get to choose. So what I want you to give, we're still talking about give to gain, is give yourself the gift of faith. Align your beliefs to the success that you want to see. So I've put a couple of questions. You can take pictures of this or they can share the slides later. So whenever you're in an unfair situation, you're dealing with injustice, rather than letting this take you down, consume you, ask yourself questions like, what am I telling myself about this thing and its power to derail my success? And what can I do to strengthen my faith that it cannot and it will not stop me? So there are so many examples I see of people, like, you can look at people like Nelson Mandela as an example, was in prison for 27 years. That's enough to make you feel like a victim. But there's got to be something about his belief and his faith that this will never limit me. There's so many women that we can look at that also, this will not limit me. So with your unfair situations, have the faith to believe that this will not stop you. I was so interested in listening to the conversation earlier about how hard it is genuinely for women to get the same results as men. It is. And I remember, when I first started out in business, we lived in Scandinavia. So my husband's Norwegian as well as Nigerian. And he works with he still does even here, works with a lot of local Norwegians, so he's fluent or pretty much working proficiency at Norwegian, speaking Norwegian. Whereas for me, I was working the global role with IBM where I spoke English all day, and quite frankly, I was too lazy to learn the different dialects. So I was terrible at Norwegian. And I remember people telling me, oh gosh, it's really hard to start a business here if you don't have Norwegian. It's like twice as hard for women, and then you don't have Norwegian, it's like infinitely more difficult. And I'm looking around, I'm seeing, it's true from all the people that I see doing business, but I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to choose to believe something else. I'm going to choose to believe that, for me, it's not going to be different. Now, I'm a woman of Christian faith, and there's many scriptures, but I like one that says, seek first the kingdom of God, and all of these things will be added onto you. There's an ease that comes. So I'm going to believe that. I'm going to work hard, I'm going to be diligent, I'll be excellent, but I'm not going to work 3 times as hard and burn myself out for the same result. So I chose to believe that, and when you believe, you align your actions to that. Very long story short with that, with that whole thing, I found that within a few, not even months, I ended up landing significant corporate contracts that gave me the funding to launch successfully into business. Because what you believe will change how you feel. It will change the actions you take or you don't take. So choose your beliefs carefully. Yes, there might be the very real facts for everybody, but you can choose to believe. Even in that situation when I found myself at the very beginning of the story I shared with you, there was nothing in the natural, fact-wise, that told me that somebody like me with nothing and no one who'd made a mess of their life, there's no evidence to support that you can be successful. But I chose to believe, Maxine, this is not who you're meant to be. You're meant for so much more. And I took action, and I kept taking action. I kept taking action. And now it's like, oh my gosh, who is that person? So whatever you are doing, wherever you're starting from, have the faith that these things that could threaten to make you a victim or keep you a victim cannot hold you back, and begin to align your actions. Make sense? Awesome. Forgive. This is huge. So you might have the faith, I can do this, you're not going to hold me back. But if you don't forgive, you might as well be trying to cycle with your legs tied together. You're not going anywhere. Basically, these unfair situations, they may leave us feeling angry, frustrated, and rightly so. You might be justifiable. However, you've got to overcome them. Give yourself, again, give to gain, give yourself the gift of forgiveness. There's endless medical research that talks about how the impact on your health and your success when you don't forgive people. I had a mentor that said this to me, it just never left me. She's like, when you are not forgiving someone, it's like you're drinking poison and you're expecting that person that you're hating or you're angry at to die. It's hurting you more than it's hurting them. So they may have kicked you down once already and you're like, okay, kick me more, when you don't forgive them. So sometimes I found myself waiting for an apology, or how could they do that? And they owe me something. When actually you're not hurting them. You're just allowing them to kick you over and over and over again. So you've got to do whatever it takes to forgive and let go. They owe you nothing, so you can move on freely. And then you can move to some questions again that might help you really get to, do I need to forgive someone? How do I even do it? So is there anyone I need to forgive linked to this challenge I'm facing? And what can I do to truly forgive them? To get to the point where I'm not carrying negative feelings anymore, and I'm free, they're free. And sometimes I found, maybe it won't work for you or not, I found that sometimes writing them the letter that I really want to tell them everything, even if I never give them the letter, I get it all out of my system. I'm like, okay. And I burn it or I rip it up or whatever, and I move on. So that works for me, but find a way to kind of really just truly release people so that you can do the third F, which is focus. So this third F is powerful. It's going to shift you from that victim mindset that is trying to keep you stuck to what I call the success mindset, where you're taking action and you build, you get momentum, and before you know it, real traction towards your goals. So you do this by really looking for ways that the situation that you're in could actually be working for you, for your good. So how many people have ever had a situation, maybe you went for a job or something happened, you weren't too happy about it, but later on you look back, you're like, thank God it happened for a reason. Anybody? Yeah. So with this focus, we're not going to wait for the hindsight, right? We're just going to pretend that we already have the hindsight, that this is working. And if it was working, begin to take action already, right? So give yourself, again, the gift of focus by considering questions like, how could this situation actually be happening for, and not to me? And if it's happening, for me, what can I do to align myself for success? I think of one of my clients again, Nanush. Her story is mind-blowing to me, but this particular step was life-changing for her. We began to work together in 2020, so it was around the time of coronavirus. We just come out of lockdowns, and then George Floyd was murdered. There was a lot of racial tensions in the UK, just a lot of uproar, and she had been off work, I think, for like 5 years, caring for her 2 children. And so she was like, I feel so frustrated with all the things I see going on in school systems in particular, because she has young children. And there's a lot of things in the curriculum that's not very inclusive, a lot of racial things. But what can I do? I'm just a mother. I'm just a mother who has just been home. Like, what can I do? So I kind of took her through this process. And with this focus step, like, how could this be happening for you? She ended up saying, okay, well, if I hate these curriculums, like, what would I do instead? She ended up helping her local school. She was a school governor, do some amazing tweaks with their curriculum. Fantastic. Other schools were now calling her in the borough to help them. She starts this business where she's helping schools as a consultant with their curriculums. She catches the attention of the local government, who now call her in to give talks in Westminster about what she's doing. This business is now thriving. Time came for the council elections in May, and they're like, oh, we think you should run for elections. She's like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, no, we really do. And she thought they put her in to just lose, because sometimes they have, I forget what they call them now. These candidates are just there to not necessarily win. She goes on and wins this election and is now basically a businesswoman and politician, really positively impacting the lives of tens of thousands of people in her region, all because she chose to come out of this victim mindset through faith, forgiveness, and focus. It's so powerful for her, and it will be for you too. Anybody willing to try that next time something unfair happens? Amazing. It will have phenomenal results. So that is how you shift out of the victim mindset. And then coming to the last step now, really, of this framework of, the power of generosity. The last thing, really, all of it's been dealing with you so far, like, giving yourself gift of faith, all these things. Now we're actually talking about giving to other people. So give attention to enabling others. So genuinely be a generous person. I don't really mean just give, because actually there's a lot of people who want a lot of things, and there's only one of you and 24 hours a day. Be strategic with how you give and how you enable others. And the best way I think of sharing this is to think about what I call the farming formula. So the farming formula, as you think about what it is you want to gain, so hopefully everybody has in mind what they would like to gain, your outstanding success. Whatever it is that you want to gain, if a farmer wants to have a bumper harvest of corn, the first thing they do is they take a little bit of corn in the form of seed and they give it away. So for you, whatever you're thinking about, like, what are some examples of what people are trying to gain here? Just throw some out at me. Something I hear, oh, nobody wants anything here? Oh, we solved everything, great. Promotion, amazing. Anything else? Advice, amazing. Maybe a couple more. Sorry, what? Oh, guidance, amazing. And then another one that comes up a lot in these conversations is all like mentorship, sponsorship, things like that. So whatever it is, guidance, advice, promotion, how can you give a little bit of that to someone else, So for example, with the advice, there's people no doubt coming to you for things. We all have some influence already. We take it for granted. I was looking at Barunka. You have so much, you don't see it. We don't we don't really see our own brilliance sometimes, but we all have a position of influence that we can help other people with. With sponsorship, women get mentored a lot, but one thing that is lacking a lot in leadership spaces is sponsors that will speak your name when you're in the room, use the influence to pull you up. We all want that, but how often do we give it? How often do you then go and say, advocate for someone who's not in the room? So whatever it is that you're looking to get, take a little bit of that and give it. And with this farmer, the farmer is not kind of given the advice or given the corn and expecting like a bumper harvest of corn immediately. You put the seed in and there's a bit of time, long time that goes by before the harvest. So for you, give, and then give time. A lot of people I see are frustrated. They're like not getting what they want because they even haven't sown the seeds to get it, but not enough time has gone by. So keep sowing the seeds of what it is that you hope to get. Allow the time to go by. And there's things that you can do in the meantime. I'm going to share more about that. But you'll see that the more and more that you do this while working diligently through the time, you'll get more just on autopilot of what it is that you want. I was talking about earlier of going into business, thinking, okay, how am I going to do this in the country? I need funding, all these things. The person that enabled me to get the large contract that helped me fund my business, interestingly, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was doing this whole farming formula. When I was working at IBM as a leader, we were both in the same team. She was quite a few levels higher than me, and she was one of the regional managers for the Central, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And she wanted to do this groundbreaking education program where she'd gather hundreds of sellers from around the world into Budapest in Hungary, where I was leading a transformation project for IBM at the time. So I remember her reaching out to me, just talking to me about it, and I thought, oh, I'll help you with it. And I had no clue really what I was doing, but I just learned, and we ended up having such a tremendous success with the sales education. It was phenomenal in terms of what we delivered as a team. And then the team actually went on to do really well for quarter after quarter after quarter. So I put my seed in the ground without really realizing. And then years later in business, I'm now in business thinking, okay, what do I want to do? I'm coaching, I want to help people be more successful. I get a call from this lady who's now, she's the CEO of this company in Scandinavia where I live, and said, can you come and do what you did here for me? And it was, oh my gosh, a harvest, wow. So that's how it was, but I've got to say this, you don't always, in my case, it was the same person that I got the harvest through. Sometimes it really isn't. So you're not kind of going into this saying, I'm doing this for you, so I expect something back in a few years. That's not that's not the idea with this farming formula. You just put it in and you diligently work, knowing it will come back to you. So that's how I would say, as you enable other people very strategically, what is it I'm trying to get? How can I help other people get that? And you'll see with time, you will get that back to you. So I've got some time for some questions a minute as we kind of come up to a close. For those of you who'd like to connect, if you're like me, haven't sat through this, you're like, oh my gosh, that was so much information. How do I connect with you? You're welcome to do that. Connect with me on socials. And also, you're like, okay, give away, but how do I actually work on my own goals? I've got a report that can help you do that. If you scan that, you can download that there. But I'm curious to know, what questions you have in the room. And really, I'm happy to take questions on anything I've said, anything you're worried about now, as we've got plenty of time to do.